show where we reef about beefs. Hey, today we're going to talk about bristle worms. Both Richard and I have some sort of beef to beef about. And then we're going to answer some questions and answers from beefers sent us in. So thank you. This show is brought to you by saltwateraquarium.com and the Biota group. So thank you to our sponsors, but more on that later.
And if you got kids in the room or you have Victorian sensibilities, this may not be the podcast for you. This podcast is about reefing information from the foundational level to the 30,000-foot view, laced with profanity. So if that's not your thing, either make it your thing or get the hell out.
Fuck off. Hey, one quick thing though, Richard. You know, I was thinking about this today. What we don't know particular viewers like level of like, what if someone thinks like hell is a cuss word?
Okay.
They're just going to have a bad time, maybe.
If they think hell is a cuss word, they're certainly going to not enjoy fuck and shit.
Yeah. I don't know.
Yeah, they probably won't enjoy us talking about QT as a Dachau place.
Yeah, that's no, not we, but you.
You jump on that bandwagon, dude.
I stay very silent during those talks.
You might as well throw in because you're connected 100% to.
Well, my ancestry is in the wrong place on that conversation.
That's true.
And so that's
very true. We should, by the way, do an episode on good QT. We did an episode, I forget the number offhand, but it was like bad QT is bad. We should talk about good QT because good QT is good. Just the frustrating thing that Ben and I see all the time is, people who don't know, people who are still testing nitrite setting up a QT tank.
Oh, yeah. I mean, it's just to say, if you're running a QT badly, that's no better than not QTing at all.
Yeah. So, but that'll be a whole nother show. We'll get.
Yeah, don't get ahead of yourself. Don't put the cart before the horse.
Why?
Richard,
my cart.
Stay on target.
My cart has a motor. Snowman says we're not supposed to say anything that's timely.
It's got to stay evergreen. Sorry, Snowman.
Like we shouldn't talk about the volcanic eruption in Tonga and how there's only one person left in Tonga that I know that I haven't heard from. I've heard from everybody else that I know.
Oh, that is freaky.
There are many places in Tonga. We should put a link to some of my pictures. Tonga link. Because there was a huge 10 megaton volcanic eruption in the Tongan Islands, and it was close to a lot of places. And a couple of islands I've been on, everything was wiped off of them completely by a 50-foot tsunami. In Tonga Tapu got like a 2-meter tsunami, which is inundated stuff. Wow. We don't really know what's going on yet. It's there still bad. And it's going to impact the trade because there's 5 or 6 outfits that have permits to export from Tonga, and that's not going to happen for a long time now. We don't even know the damage to the reefs around Tonga because of all that ash that has been dumped in there. It's a nightmare, and it looks like the deaths aren't so bad, as bad as they could have been. But there's huge issues. They got bad drinking water. Their food they're subsistence farmers, so that's covered in.
I'm going to ask you a question that you might not know the answer to, but I'm curious.
Yes.
Would volcanic ash, would that alkalize water?
I believe that is the case.
I wonder if that would in a local area, if that would have an effect like that, or if it would dilute so fast. I don't know.
The satellite pictures show that the sea is the color of ash. So
oh my God.
I don't even care about the alkalinity.
It would just turbidity.
It's just covered in ash. So we're not going to see much, I think, out of Tonga for a while. The runway is supposed to be clear tomorrow. There are people out there literally sweeping the runway by hand to get the ash off. The communication line is down, and the 2 or 3 Tongan corals that I have now, I'm going to start fragging in case we never see them again. My wife and I are supposed to be going to Tahiti on
Ooh.
Saturday. We've never been to Tahiti.
I I hope a volcano doesn't blow up
I
there.
hope so too. And I hope that on Friday when we take our COVID tests that we come positive. And I can't go see my dad because I can't risk bringing COVID to him.
Yeah.
So I feel a little weird going to Tahiti, but also knowing that we're going to Tahiti where there's almost no one, it seems like a good bet of a place to go on vacation. And we haven't been anywhere in over 2 years, and we're losing our minds.
Go
So,
isolate in Tahiti. Hey, you know what we should do? We should shoot a reef beef in Tahiti.
oh, absolutely, we should do two
Yeah.
because I'll be sitting on the beach.
Drunk.
Uh, I'll be kiteboarding, I'll be snorkeling, and sitting on the beach drunk. That's what I'm going to do for 2 weeks. So we'll do that.
Can
But
we
I
do
did.
a reef beef while you're kiting in the air?
That might be harder.
Pussy.
But I think I'll bring a GoPro and I'll stick it on so we'll have some footage.
Yeah, at least
When
some footage.
when I was in Tonga in 2019, the last time I was there, I had and we'll put this picture up. I had a pic of on my kite. I had a camera on the kite, and so you can see me kiting over just tons and tons of coral. It's just
That's cool.
I was kiting as slowly as I could, doing this. Oh my god! Oh my god! Oh my god! Holy crap!
You better pay attention.
So I'll get the Tonga pics up. But I do have a beef. Should we switch into beefs?
Well, let's switch into a beef.
My beef is about dealing with hair algae. And my beef is how people recommend you deal with hair algae. So I saw somebody who had a hair algae problem. No picture of the tank. No information that can help you understand what's going on in the tank. Just, I'm battling hair algae. And here's one of the responses. I recommend hitting the tank with Phosphate RX, pulling the algae out, followed by some big water changes. If that doesn't do the trick, try Reflux plus GFO and Phosphate RX. And it's like, how is anybody feel good about that recommendation? How
Did
can you
that person bill? It sounds like a doctor recommendation. Like, did he bill for that?
no? And it's just like, wow. When
Like,
you know,
I wouldn't want to shit on him. It was someone trying to give friendly advice. But I think I see what
but
you're saying there,
but
Richard. Like, people saying stuff as if it's like widely accepted that those things in that order is gonna.
the first thing to deal with algae, according to this person, is bringing a phosphate down.
Yeah, like how fast or
I,
how.
I'm still objecting to the idea that high phosphate levels, is what's fueling your algae problem.
Well, that reminds me of working in stores too. Like, people would come in and say, I have a massive hair algae problem in my tank. And I say, okay, well, test the water. I don't have a test kit. Okay, bring a water sample here. They bring a water sample and you can almost, in a lot of these situations, see like next to no nitrate and next to no phosphate. And like, it's like, dude, it's bound inside all that algae. If you killed all that algae, you would have those nutrients high as hell.
Just get rid of the algae.
Yeah. Algivores, snails, urchins.
Herbivores.
When you do a water change, I do recommend that
Look,
too. Doing a water change and pinching out some, just remove it.
that's what you have to do. And if your tank is phase changed already, if you've got algae all over the rocks, you're gonna have a bad time. You're gonna have to be drastic about removing it. If you got a little bit of algae, take care of it when it's small. We've talked about it before. The thing that kills me is the idea. Look, your algae is evolved to grow alongside of your corals. So you need to have phosphate for your corals. You need to have some nitrate for your corals. Your algae is going to use the same kind of stuff to grow. So look, if there's any beefers out there who can put me in touch with some actual evidence, I'm not talking about peer review papers. I'm talking about anything beyond anecdote. Show me the success stories of I had a ton of hair algae and all I did was change the nutrient levels and it went away.
Yeah,
Show me
true.
that. Show me that. and I'll be really happy.
Yeah.
Because but it's got to be better than I did that. I need some photographic evidence. I need something that I can look at that is more than you just telling me that happened. Because man, the algae is better at life than coral. The algae is going to be able to use smaller amounts of nitrate and phosphate than your corals are going to use.
Yeah.
So if you're starving the corals, if you're starving the algae for nutrients, you're starving your corals for nutrients.
Oh, absolutely.
I just don't think it's.
And
But Ben and I are old motherfuckers, and our minds are always open to anything, but you got to show us something. I would love it to be true, but I'm not seeing any evidence on all the algae sites I go to. We'll talk about dinos another time, but people are making these recommendations, and they're just full of people who are going, I did that and I've still got algae. It's been 6 months and I've still got algae.
Sometimes the good thing to do is something that might not occur to you, which is you got to use herbivores, and you got to mechanically, with your hands in a hose, remove algae. Now, let me make a sub statement on that. It's not doing that once. Besides the herbivores doing their thing, you've got to step up the game of your maintenance, small, frequent water changes, and be doing this for a while. In my opinion, just the people don't have you people. No, a lot of people don't just have the patience for, I feel like, how to correctly steer out of an algae problem, which is do more frequent maintenance for quite a while.
Yeah.
There's not, okay, so I could see using GFO, fine. I could see using fluconazole, okay, fine. I could see doing all that stuff, but really herbivores and you removing the algae in small water changes, pinching it as it's growing, never giving it half a chance besides the herbivores mooring around. But quickly right after that, 1 second, Mr. Ross, quickly right after that is getting some damn corals in there, because like Richard said, they use the same nutrients too. It's either going to be algae using it or corals use it. So that's why I say might not make sense, is get some damn corals in there once you've kind of tamed the algae down.
I was going to say that you can also smother small patches of algae with super glue or epoxy. It's so much easier than trying to fight it. The little patch in my reef of Bryopsis that I had, I removed some of it, smothered it with super glue, done for that little patch. But if I had fought like pulling it out for weeks and weeks and weeks and weeks, I would get frustrated and angry. So use a tactical nuke instead of a full-on nuke. But do it when it's small, right? The other thing is, there's people experimenting more and more with the idea of filling your tank with coral fast. For exactly the reasons you're talking about. One of the reasons my tank may not have so much algae is because there's no real estate for the algae to grow, and there's so much coral that they're using up the nutrients. Although I've got plenty of phosphate and nitrate, right? But I'll be interested to see. I'm tempted, actually, to set up a tank that's not connected to my system and run it, just fill it up. But you know what I would do if I was setting up that tank? I wouldn't use all dry rock. I would use a little bit of dry rock, and I would use the half of the rock I would have cured in salt water for a few months to get some bacteria going. Or I would pull rock out of one of these tanks, and then I would fill it right away. This idea, man, we'll have to do a whole show on setting up a new tank, and maybe you and I should just set up some nanos. Well,
we had talked about doing that. We ought to put our money where our mouth is.
Yeah, maybe when I get back, we'll do that.
I was talking about the challenge. I'm gonna make a reef tank in a 5-gallon bucket, make it look decent after a while.
Oh, that's a funny idea.
Yeah.
Oh, that's a great idea. Forget the vase. I'm gonna use
with a top-down view. Yeah.
I'm gonna use a fucking Coke bottle. All right, that's my beef. My beef is people just saying that here's this magic in a bottle.
Or that any of those like particular prescribed way,
without any other information.
And not to keep riffing off on your beef, but here's the problem. So you kill the algae, okay, and you remove it too. Like, how did you get that much nutrients, or how did you get there? Like, what's to say you're not going to end up right back there in a month?
I think a lot of this has got to do with people starting new tanks with dry rock and not letting the rock season long enough to become inundated with bacteria, and to go and the cycles of diatoms and dinos and algae and cyano that you're going to go through, because it's a completely pure tank and they need to be colonized. So,
but next to no one has the patience to set up a tank, and not do a damn thing to it for like 2 months.
You know what? Everybody's got the patience to do that.
Yeah, they just choose not to.
Everybody's got the patience. There's just enough people out there going, hey, you can skip all that and have fucking...
Because I have this bottle of blah, 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 blah. I have beer.
Skip the 2 months. Why not have 6 to 12 months of fucking hell?
Because depending who you get your advice from, because telling someone to just wait 2 months and don't buy anything, like, that's, again, I've given this advice many times, is be careful who you get your advice from if they have a vested interest in making money off of you, because that will guide how they give you advice.
Yeah.
So if I'm just giving you old reefer guy advice, I'm saying, whether you set up your tank and put the rock in there and just let it run for 2 months, or, hey, I want a reef tank. You know what? Go get the dry rock now, put it in a trash container and run that for 2 months, making sure you have a correct temperature and salinity.
You know when I got cyano in these tanks? Is when I added some of the coarser reef substrates. Mm-hmm. One of the ones that comes with the bacteria, which I buy just because I like the color better. But I decided to go with the coarser stuff because there was a lot of flow. Yeah. And that's just like rock. And I'm getting more convinced that is, when you've got new unseasoned stuff, that's when that's got a cycle.
I've seen that as well.
So, my beef is essentially, oh, I got a little cold. Well, take antibiotics. No! Don't take antibiotics for a little cold. Same thing.
And here's the deal, is if you have a bad algae problem, the best thing is to locate your reef tank on the second floor, right in front of a window, and then open the window and just push the son of a bitch out of it. Yeah. Just do that.
Yeah.
That's the best way.
The only time I've ever had a bad algae problem is when it was in one of the tanks behind me. Is right after you were here and we set these up. And then I went to Palau for 3 weeks.
Yeah.
And then there was COVID, right? But when I got back, one of these were totally full with algae.
Yeah.
Like, full with algae. And so I scraped it all up. I put a pleated cartridge filter in there, turned off the lights for a couple days, and then ignored it, and it was gone.
Oh, I was hoping that you added 15 bottles of 15 different chemicals and then went online and asked everybody what to do.
I just think you're not going to beat the algae like that.
Nope.
It's phase changed. It's taken over. My beef brings all the boys to the yard.
My beef brings all the boys to the yard.
Hey, Richard.
Benjamin.
Where is a place that you would go to get saltwater aquarium paraphernalia items, filtration, liquids, everything?
The place I do go, would I go, is saltwateraquarium.com.
That's a sweet place. Why would you go there?
Because, Ben, they've got everything I need. Really, they've got everything I need and they ship it quick. What else do you want?
They ship it quick because they have 3 locations across the continental United States.
That's right. Now, and I said, what else do you want? I can tell you what else do you want.
What else do you want?
What else do you want from saltwateraquarium.com?
Yeah.
You want reward programs.
Yeah.
You get like 5% off if you're a first responder, or if you're in the medical field, or if you got like one leg. If you got one leg, they'll give you a deal.
What if you're a second responder?
If you're a second responder, they'll probably give it to you too, because they're awesome. They're awesome is the thing. They've also got a cleanup crew that they sell in-house. They keep in-house. So they're not drop shipping to you. It's clean, fishless system, so you're not going to get disease. They hand pick it. They watch the weather, so they make sure when it gets sent out, it's not being sent into the snowstorm of hell. They've got almost everything I ever want. So I just bought some Remag from them recently, and also some calcium reactor media, some Reborn. And I like dealing with them. They're quick, they're fun, they're friendly. And they sponsor us.
Sounds like a winner to me. Thank you, saltwateraquarium.com.
Thank you, saltwateraquarium.com. And if you have a phone, check out their app. It makes
their new app. Yeah. And also use our link to get there.
Saltwateraquarium.com. Trusted since before Reef Beef even existed. Check out the link below. Thank you guys so much. My beef brings all the boys to the yard.
My beef brings all the boys to the yard.
What's your beef?
My beef is I lost a client. Now it's going to sound like your calcium reactor thing. Now it's going to sound like I lose clients all the time.
You lost another client?
I lost a client today, but it's not that big of a deal because it was a copacetic losing. It was just a terrible, as a matter of fact, it was an already existing tank. They had called me out like probably a couple months ago. I went to look at it. I was a little confused. And boy, I tell you, when you do this as a business, it's tricky when you walk into a situation where what you want to say is like, that tank is shit. Your building is nice and impressive. You've got a bullshit tank sitting there and you want me to do what with it? And that's what I had to do. So it's like, you have to be real careful to be tactful and say, we could, when I first met with them, I said, we could do it this and that. And they're like, how much money does that cost? And I ballparked them and they're like, that's not going to happen. So then I'm like, I don't know if I want to clean this, but I am a business. So I have to take money from people and I have to put it into the bank. So
this was a client that you took for the money.
Yeah. And so I was like, well, and the cool thing is they didn't even have a skimmer. So I sold them a good skimmer that worked and it got a little better. And then they had a bad algae problem. Guess what I did? They had a terrible hair algae problem. I put 30 red-banded trochus snails in there and 6 of Chad Vosson's blue tuxedo urchins in there. When I came back next visit, what happened? 0 algae. That's how you do it, motherfuckers.
I think the best thing to come out of the captive breeding world for reef tanks is baby urchins.
Oh yeah,
baby urchins.
Get into little parts where other things can't get to.
Yeah.
But yeah, within 2. So I saw that tank every 2 weeks. They completely wiped it out, which is weird. So I just got rid of the algae problem, and then I had just sent my contact a thing of like, hey, if you put a little bit better lights on here, I can put mushroom corals and finger leathers and simple soft corals in there, and we could make something of this. And so she didn't respond for a couple of days. And then just today she got back and it's like, oh, I'm sorry. I just now saw this. And actually, like, if you want to come get the fish, she's like, we'll give you all the fish in the tank if you just drain the water out for us real quick. And I'm like, fair enough, because I can turn around and sell those for several $100s. And, but again, I don't like to lose clients. So I was like, what? Because she said something had become kind of a pain in the rear. I was like, what, if you don't mind me asking, what became a pain in the rear? And she said, well, we had to feed the fish tank and they got rid of the person at the front counter. And so they had to come back and feed the fish. And I said, well, I could automate that. But I was, just hinting at things I could do, but trying to get a feel for professionally, you have to get a reading of it. Like, do you guys, like, what's the problem? Is it money? Am I not doing something? This one was just, they knew that the tank was a piece of shit and they were just pulling the plug. And the cool thing that, I charged a lot for it. So they just knew that, this is going to cost them a lot of money and they're not going to go with what I had recommended, which was spending $10,000 to $15,000 and getting a whole new system. But, and so then it was amicable. And I was like, oh, it makes sense to me. And I'm sorry to hear that. And I always end with, further down the road, you guys, business is better and you guys want to do something, please don't hesitate to look me back up. And just emphatically, she was like, oh yeah, you did a great job. And we would definitely, I don't foresee it happening, but that's what I'm telling you. When you do this as a business, don't burn your bridges.
Hey, you know what else? The stripper really likes you.
Yeah. She told me she loves me, but I don't think she tells that to everybody.
Yeah. I don't think this lady who fired you.
That was a different case.
Yeah, it was totally different.
Yeah, I mean, in situations like this, if I wasn't draining the tank, it always makes me wonder, like, do they find someone that does it for half of what I charge?
So how long were they your client?
It was a good 4-month run.
All right. And do you get the tank and stuff too, or just the
I
fish?
don't want the tank.
Oh, okay.
I'm telling you, absolute garbage.
All right, great. So sounds great. Business is that's
But
not a
that's another thing is when you do this as a business, you get a feel for in the beginning when you get a new client in your head, you're like, is this a forever client or is this an easy come, easy go? And I always knew this was an easy come, easy go. I don't get upset when these slip through the cracks because, when I see that your tank is junk, but you have a nice, expensive building and I see that you're not just putting forth the money when I know that you can. I just know I'm just collecting a paycheck I'm going to do the best damn job that I can for the money that I told you. And I'm going to collect that money for as long as you are on the ride.
Naturally. I'm not basing my ego on this. This is a gig.
Nope. Yep.
Yeah. I'll give you an analogy that will be very helpful to everyone. It's like doing walk around gigs when you're a juggler.
That's the two jugglers that watch the show, you included.
I'm both of them.
Yeah, you and Shakes the Clown.
I was almost in that movie.
And I hate when you say that because when I was in my 20s, for me and my friends, that was a cult classic. Shakes the Clown. Beefers, please watch Shakes the Clown.
If I had been in LA while it was filming, I would have likely have been in that movie. But my friend was on set. My friend did all the juggling in that movie. Actually, he's my ex-friend, whatever. But and I was at Davis for college, and they needed some pratfalls, some big falls. And at the time, part of what I would do on stage was somebody said, if you've seen it in a cartoon, Rich will do it. So they were looking for some stuff like that, and they said, well, get him over here. And they said, he's up at Davis. And they're like, never mind, we don't have time. I was like,
Dude.
No, I would have driven all night.
Would your face have been on the camera?
It doesn't matter. I don't care. No, I would have been Shakes.
No.
I would have been dressed as Shakes to do the stunts.
Oh, I see, like a stunt double.
Yeah, all the juggling is done by this guy who used to be my really good friend, dressed as Shakes.
Dude, I wouldn't be able to handle that if my cohort had been in Shakes the Clown.
I was in a Primus video. That's pretty good.
Yeah. What is that? It's when and I was a big Primus freak back in the day. It's that what video? Mr. Crinkle. Mr. Crinkle. So if you watch the Primus Mr. Crinkle video, the first guy that comes out by in a unicycle, right?
I'm on a pogo stick in a straitjacket.
Pogo stick and a straitjacket. That's Mr. Richard.
We'll put a link to that. That was a really fun shoot. That was 3 days.
See, that's what I'm saying. I already can't handle that because I was massively into Primus.
I was hanging out with Larry, the guitarist.
Mr. Crinkle.
Who wanted me to do more than they would let us do. That was really fun. My beef brings all the boys to the yard.
My beef brings all the boys to the yard.
So Ben, I was on the internets and I came across a website, the biotagroup.com, and I was reading their site, and apparently they do all kinds of captive breeding of animals that they actually sell to the hobby. Like they've got 3 facilities, one in Palau, one in Hawaii, one in Florida, with some other sub-facilities in North Carolina, and they're producing all these animals that we always say we wanted to be captive bred for the hobby. And it turns out that I actually know who they are and that they're a sponsor of the show this week.
Yes.
Yeah, it's Tom.
My company has been ordering from them for about 5 years.
Yeah, I think they're great. And they're... The thing to understand is that captive bred stuff is not wild caught stuff. So you kind of have to flip a little switch in your head. It's not the same thing. They're not going to be the same size. They're going to be smaller, and you're just going to have to deal with that. That's the way it's going to be in the future. And it's not a big deal. It's just different. So be ready for that. And you've always wanted to support a company that's doing it right. They're doing it right. And it's very exciting to me to have them as a sponsor because I really believe in what they're doing.
Oh, big time. I mean, like I said, I've been getting from them from a long time. As a matter of fact, I won't get a Mandarin Dragonet from any other place. Of course, they're smaller and they're more expensive than you'd find wild caught. but just my success with the Mandarin Dragonets, which, you know, as a business, like everyone wants a Mandarin Dragonet in their reef tank. So I pretty much put one in every reef tank. And I seriously, I only get them from Biota just because the first time I ever got them, they're so tiny, I was a little shocked and concerned. But every single one of them has made it. And they don't just eat copepods, they eat all sorts of prepared foods as well.
So they're great. Look, we think that wild caught stuff is good and it should continue and it should be sustainable and responsible. If you're a new reefer, please go to Biota and get your animals from them. You're going to have a better time than dealing with something from the wild anyway. And please, if you're a seasoned reefer, if you want any of the animals they sell, get them from Biota. Spend a little bit of the extra money. You know and I know that buying a wild-caught mandarin means you might have to buy 4 of them to get one to live. Might have to buy 8 of them to get one to live. That's not good for the environment, right? So for whatever reason they're not making it, we don't want to even deal with that. Go to Biota, much better stuff, much less taxing on the environment, and they're doing good in the world of reefing. How it's such a rare thing that I'm kind of in awe of it, and I have a man crush on Tom.
Same.
So, Biota Group,
Biota.
go down to the link. You can buy direct from them, or you can get them from your retailer who is hip to the skinny and selling good stuff. Biota Group, do it.
Do it now.
My beef brings all the boys to the yard.
My beef brings all the boys to the yard.
Bristle worms, huh?
Yeah. So Bristle Worms, you know, that we had a good series going for a while where we were talking about pests. So I kind of wanted to bring that back. And you know, it's kind of funny because ever since I started doing reef tanks back in the 1890s, I say 90s, but I think people get confused because I'm not talking about the 1990s.
Oh, we know.
Yeah.
We know.
No, but like I remember bristle worms and in particular fireworms being like a curse word. But that was back in the days when we would get actual live rock, like Marshall Islands in Fiji. But because like, you know, like people don't talk about manna shrimp anymore unless you're like buying a manna shrimp. But back in the days, manna shrimp, that was the Russian roulette that you played when you bought actual live rock.
You know what? I'm just going to jump back to our beefs for a second, just because.
Oh my God, dude.
It's connected. Listen.
We needed it like in the sitcoms.
When I was setting up tanks, right? When all my tanks were new 20 years ago or whatever, and I was setting up lots of tanks, you know, and I had 5 different tanks. It wasn't one system, right?
Yeah.
I would go to Aquatic Collection. Actually, a bunch of stores around they just had freaking big ag containers filled with water.
Oh yeah.
And they just cured your live rock for you right there.
Cycling rock. Yeah.
And what I don't understand, I see a lot of people complaining about, you know, the dry rock now, starting a tank from dry rock and how it's problematic. And it's like, well, we know what to do. Freaking season it for a couple months in a fucking bucket of salt water with an air stone.
Yeah.
You don't even need a heater.
You sound like an angry old man.
So I don't understand why fish stores aren't doing that anymore. I guess the live rock turns over, that it makes it hard to get ahead of it because people are wanting to buy it all the time. But man, if I was setting something up from, I would definitely listen. I bought a bunch of artificial rock because I wanted to use it as backdrops in here. What did I do? I fucking stuck it outside in a bucket of fucking water and left it for 3 months. Because for a couple reasons. One, it's artificial, so I wanted to lose whatever alkalinity is bound up in the material they made. And I wanted to get kind of seeded already. I want some bacteria to be in there. It's just this rush. You know what is exactly what it's like? And it's, when I say exactly, I mean totally different. It's like when you have
herpes,
a dark green wall, and you want to paint it bright yellow, but you think it's a good idea not to prime it first.
Oh yeah.
I'm going to skip the primer because I am more comfortable doing 18 coats of paint than doing 2.
and then you're online saying, why did this color bleed through?
Yeah. Okay. Anyway, bristle worms. We
I was
used
about
to get.
say, what the fuck does it have to do with bristle?
I was thinking you were talking about getting live rock.
Look. That's the reason we do beefs, is so you do your beef and then you get that negative energy out. I know what happened right there, Mr. Ross. You didn't get your negatives out.
I didn't get it out.
Oh my God, you are pissed. That's a real beef. You're pissed.
You could get live rock from Florida, but you're still worried about getting pests. Wah. Actually, people are worried about diseases. But I mean, what you're gonna get some mantis shrimp. You get all that kind of crap that you would deal with for the 2 months that you're not doing anything anyway, and then you'd be able to deal with all that stuff that came up, which is very cool. And you'd get the peanut worms and stuff, and the spaghetti worms, which I don't see that much anymore.
Look,
so, you know, and I think Real Reef was doing this. You could buy cured rock from Real Reef. It would season for. I'm not sure if they're doing it anymore. But what I don't understand is, if we all agree that dry live rock is problematic, and that's what I see all over the forums, people are dry live rock's hard because it's got to cure, mama. Fucking cure it before you prime your wall. Prime it.
I think that this is a reef beef first. It might not be, but I'm saying your beef is bleeding into my practical.
Okay, go to the main course. The Reef Beef restaurant.
I know what triggered you. You got triggered, Mr. Ross. You got triggered because I was talking about old school live rock. But you're right. You're absolutely right on that.
Remember the problems with old school live rock was that
it was too good.
Well, it was often also stuck in a shipping container that took a month to get it over. So there was nothing really. There was all dead rock, which accelerates your cycle because it's got all that crap on it.
I had heard horror stories about what actually went on because remember they were called long boxes and they were waxy cardboard.
Yep.
I had heard horror stories that, I guess we thought that a guy was out there collecting rock, putting them in a box and sending it off to you. I had heard from industry insiders that those boxes would sit in a warehouse for like a week or more.
And then they'd be put on a container.
Yep.
And a container doesn't show up in 24 hours.
Yep.
Then it would get shipped. Then it would go to the distributor. Then it would get shipped to you.
You know what's
I seed it.
Yeah.
The first few times I was in Tonga, they were still allowed to collect live rock there.
Yeah.
So I seed it happening. And I was able to get live rock that I collected myself, that I shipped to myself from Tonga.
Now that would be far different.
That's still some of the rock that's in my tank.
Yeah. And that is a lost art because I remember, part of working in a fish store is where you get live rock in and just like you said, those like big ag containers. And we would act like we are curing your rock for you. We had no fucking choice. You had to cure it.
Yeah.
It was trash.
Yeah.
And what people don't remember is you'd put like this giant order of live rock in one of those ag containers. And it was like people are worried about their bad water quality now. You should have seen from the 90s, like a curing live rock, like bubbles that don't pop, like floating over the side, like just shit water.
Yeah, you would have a couple of weeks of big water changes.
Oh, yeah.
To deal with that.
I remember a store that had linked, and this was pretty smart, had linked back in the days we didn't use Cheeto or Chitomorph or whatever you want to call it, but we used like Caulerpa, like Racemosa or Prolifera, and a guy had like linked his big Caulerpa vat together with the live rock curing vat, and the Caulerpa was going ape shit, and he was selling it was making him money. Again, you could cure rock and attach it to Chitomorpha and cure that all together.
I think what we're seeing now is just the realities of marketing, not marketing, of vendoring.
Yeah.
It is so much easier to sell you a box of rock off the shelf than it is to
let you do the curing.
Yeah, than have to cure it or deal with it or stock it or look at it in any way. I want to tell us what you think about that in the comments, beef peoples. Let us know what you think about this, because it seems to me if we were being smart about it, but we're not smart about it.
But see, this is one of those.
No, you just stop. I'm talking, Ben. You shika. People want an easier answer, And it's the same thing. People think it's okay to fight with algae for 6 to 12 months rather than keep the tank not really well lit for the first couple months while you're setting it up anyway. And it's like, oh, I could get this bottle of rock, I could get this box of rock right now, and I'm gonna have 3 months of problems because I'm trying to set it up this way when this stuff is not seasoned. I think if I were an influencer, I would bump my camera, and then I would say, my goodness, let's just cure this rock for people already. My goodness. Because I live in Mayberry.
Clutch your pearls,
Andy,
Richard.
do you know that song from the Andy Griffith Show has lyrics?
No.
It's a nice day to take a stroll and go down to the fishing hole. I can't think of a better way to spend the time of day. Whether it's hot, whether it's cold,
No way.
we can go down to the fishing hole. Yeah.
Well, I'm sure
just
every
lost.
beefer, no, I think the beefers now feel like a stronger kinship with us.
Do they?
But what I was gonna say is this might be a case of the way we used to do it. You know what? Fight with me. The way we used to do that is better than the way they do it now.
Yes. I won't fight with you. But we could do it now. We can't. I'm fine with artificial rock. I'm fine with quarried rock being used. It's probably a little it's probably a little denser than I would like it to be, but fine.
I'm not a fan.
Freaking season it. Why, instead of trying to do it backwards, do it forwards.
Yeah. So bristle worms. Poor
Yeah,
bristle
talk
worms.
about bristle. Go.
Bristle worms showed up in the spotlight, and then the spotlight goes away. The bristle worms like, oh. So back in the day, it's like everyone used to say, fireworms, don't get a fireworm. It's like a big bristle worm, and it's red, and it will eat your face off. The funny thing is I don't recall too many times seeing an actual fireworm. It was actually pretty rare.
Super rare.
But bristle worms can get very large. I see them all the time. I see them every day. Now, are bristle worms a problem? In my opinion, bristle worms aren't a problem unless you let their population go out of control.
And then what happens if their population gets out of control?
Well, if you put something in a glass box and then, no, they could chew on some things.
Fucking nothing. They're detritivores.
Yeah, but, I've never actually seen them chewing on anything.
They don't. They're detritivores. They eat dead shit.
You don't think in a worst case scenario in a starving bristle worm is going to be like, oh, I'm going to eat that finger leather?
Nope.
Maybe the sarcophines taste bad.
Nope.
COVID.
I'll fight you. You're wrong.
No, I was about to say that, but you're kind of right. It's just that they gross people out.
That's all it is. Well, they suck because when you get them on your hands, all the bristles go into you.
Let me tell you something. That used to swell my hands a little bit, but since I've been doing this for 1,025 years, but Richard, I shit you not, they don't bug me whatsoever. Yeah. I can handle one. It doesn't do anything to me anymore.
Try it on your taint and see if that works too.
I'm gonna put one in my nostrils.
But it's very easy for people either to develop a sensitivity or an insensitivity to animals. Okay. A lot of time jelly keepers have no problem with Aurelia, with the moon jellies, until about a year goes by, and then all of a sudden they're completely sensitive. It's a bristle worm on your head.
It's a fireworm. No.
So bristle worms are fine. They're just kind of gross. If they look they squidge people out, especially like when you take a rock out and you put it in a bucket, and then all of a sudden there's 100 bristle worms in there. Well, you know what? Those bristle worms are there because you're feeding them and they're eating something. So they're doing their job. If you get bristles in your hand, you can soak it in vinegar, or you can use
vinegar.
Yeah, vinegar can help dissolve the bristles.
Can you urinate on your hand?
You can.
we bring urine back into the conversation?
You absolutely can urinate on your hand. It's not going to help with the bristles. It's not going to help with your jellyfish thing. There's not enough ammonia.
Wait. Stop there, Mr. Ross. Are you for real telling me that urine doesn't do the jellyfish thing?
This is very much like our hobby.
People like piss on it.
No. Well, yeah. But what people do is, in our hobby, here's an idea that makes some sense. We should all do it forever without checking if it really has the effect we want.
It's been repeated 1,000 times.
There is some ammonia in urine sometimes.
Not enough.
And there's just really not enough. So if I was in the middle of nowhere and got stung really bad by a jellyfish and we didn't have any vinegar anywhere, I might ask someone to pee on me.
But maybe then it's concentration. So ask everyone on the beach to piss on you.
To get the right amount? Who's had asparagus? Asparagus and cuttlefish.
That's out of control.
It was on Survivor recently where they peed on somebody because that makes good TV. But really,
peeing on somebody always makes for good TV.
No one recommends in your zoonotic diseases or zoonotic or dealing with wildlife section of your diving training. No one recommends peeing on anything. It's just not a thing.
Then you should carry around a bottle. What's that stuff called? Quaternary ammonia?
Vinegar. All dive boats have vinegar on them nowadays.
Really?
You get stung, they pour some vinegar on you and you're good. Actually, you use salt water first. Is that right? I believe that's right. Don't use fresh water because fresh water will activate the nematocysts. So rinse it, scrape it, and pour fucking vinegar on it. You'll be fine.
But all dive boats have a bottle of vinegar, and then
you know why?
Helper on board that's all too eager to urinate on you.
It's way fucking easier for a dive boat to have a bottle of vinegar than to try to get someone to pee on you.
Dude, if I was on a dive boat, I would be way too eager to pee on people.
You can get people to pee on you at home. You don't
in Germany, there's a lot of Germans.
No, you could do it in Houston. I guarantee you, people will pee on you.
There's no peeing in Houston.
Oh,
we're all very rational, sensible people here in Texas.
Yeah, because no one's drinking urine for COVID anymore.
Not at all.
Definitely not in Texas.
The land of rational people.
Texas is just a drier version of Florida.
Oh, come on. Come on. We have bigger hats.
And I like both places.
Okay.
Except for the pee. So, bristle worms, they sting you. It's kind of a pain. It's not that big a deal. It's like the super glue on your fingers. The bristles go in a day or two, they'll be gone.
I mean, really, if it's that big deal, put it in the comments so I can make fun of you because you're crying about.
You can use tape. You can also use super glue and peel the super glue off, and the bristles will come out with the super glue.
Yeah.
Or white glue if you want to do that.
But there is a couple things like arrow crabs will eat. I think. Yeah. I think that I don't think anybody should be freaked out by the number of bristle worms in their tank. But I think, a lot of things you should. Again, how am I going to say this? You shouldn't freak out about them, but you should try to. Their population should tell you something about how you're running your tank.
If you start finding dead bristle worms, something's wrong. If you're feeding
bristle worm murderer.
If you're got a shit ton of bristle worms in a tank, it's way better than having all of those nutrients floating around. They're bound up in the bristle worm.
Yeah, they are good detritivores, so they break it down into.
And if anybody buys an arrow crab to take out bristle worms, Ben and I are going to come to your house and slap you and then leave.
I will tell you, of 3,000 years of keeping arrow crabs, they really don't last that long.
No, you know why? It's got nothing to fucking eat.
Oh, that's true.
And then they also eat your corals. So if you
want
don't
they mess with the zoanthids?
They're opportunistic carnivores. They'll munch on whatever they feel like munching on. You'll never know. If you want an arrow crab, get a tank for an arrow crab. If you have a reef tank and you want an arrow crab, stop.
They're bad at pulling food out of coral's mouth.
You can't have everything. Stop trying to have everything.
Yeah.
Here's the new thing that I'm seeing with bristle worms that's making me crazy, is everyone says, you have a bobbit worm.
Oh, no. I've heard that's like, you're not going to get that. Because you and you and Wandell went to try to go like capture one, and it's damn near impossible.
I think
As
Matt
a
and
matter of
I
fact, I
are
don't think anybody in the history of the world has captured a bobbit worm.
not alive. I think Matt and I are the only people that I know of that have put their hands on a live bobbit worm.
I thought it was your genitals.
If we had caught them, we would have put our genitals all over them. That was
Google bobbit worm beefers and tell me if you would put your genitals on them.
Bobbit worms they're a unicid worm. We do see those long unicid worms in reef tanks, and some of them eat coral, some of them don't, and they get long and they look scary. They are not bobbit worms. Bobbit worms are a specific worm, and we don't see them in tanks because they need these huge deep dens and a whole lot of silty substrate to live in. They lay in wait like a bear trap and jump up and snap their food and pull it down and eat it. We're not seeing bobbit worms in tanks. This is another beef of mine. It's a beefy show. My beef brings all the boys to the yard.
My beef brings all the boys to the yard.
Hey, so I want to thank everybody who supports the show. I want to thank all the sponsors. This week, it's Biota and saltwateraquarium.com. And I also want to thank the beefers of all different levels for being members. Thank you so much. That really helps us out and keeps us going. Asking us questions, it's wonderful. Buying us a coffee is wonderful. Thank you for all that. We're still planning some more stuff for you guys coming up in the future. We really appreciate it. We also really appreciate just the people who like, subscribe, and share. So do that. We're kind of like, this is kind of like when you were in grade school and they made you go and sell these freaking chocolates that no one cared about, and you were just like, you're just pimping me out. I'm working for the man with nothing. I'm going so I can buy pencils. I have to walk door to door and freaking pimp out chocolates that suck. Why am I doing that?
Cub Scouts.
Yeah, so it's like that, except you get no chocolates. Just share Reef Beef around.
Like a bad STD.
That's right. So why should you be the only people who are getting Reef Beef? You should force other people.
Especially if you start watching this and you're like, you think this is total crap, just share it to people as an insult to them.
That's right. Get on wherever good podcasts are. Our podcast is there somehow. Give us a review. Frog is a good review.
Yeah, Frog.
Or Polythoa is a good review. Repugnant is a good review of our show.
Repugnant. I still watch it.
That was actually a review of Very Bad Wizards that made me laugh so hard. So thank you guys so much. Ben, you should take us out because I've just talked a whole lot.
Namaste. No, thank you, beefers, for all that you do. Like Richard said, share us around. That's the best way to get this disease spread pretty hardcore. And, why should COVID get all the glory?
2022, the pandemic of Reef Beef.
Yes. Thank you, beefers.
Too soon. I think it's too soon, but we're going with it.
It's never too soon. It's only too late.
My beef brings all the boys to the yard.
My beef brings all the boys to the yard.
Hey, let's do questions and answers from beefers.
Okay, we can do that. We like questions. If you have questions, the easiest way to get us to look at your questions seriously is to become a Reef Beef member and use Ask Reef Beef. Because then we get those questions directly to us, and we're happy to ask any of those. And so thank you for these beefers for putting some beefy thought into this.
Namaste.
Scott asks, he doesn't work at Walmart. Scott asked a good question before, and he knows stuff about fluconazole, and what it actually does. So not only is Scott a member, but I think we're going to try to get Scott on because he actually knows. He's not just some guy making stuff up. He studies this stuff.
Sweet.
So, I have a question regarding lighting schedules for Acropora-dominated systems, and he spelled it Acropora, not Acropora, because he's into science. There's so much information out there and some odd theories from individuals without much support to back them up, like garlic. It's like the garlic of lighting. Currently, I'm on the Radeon AB Plus schedule with 1.5 hours of ramp up and ramp down and 8 hours of peak, stable, non-oscillating daylight intensity. What's the most common schedule for a system like this in your opinion? And how far can you push it with ramp times, peak daylight, and total photo period? Like, don't go lighting for X hours or everything will die. Ben, I read it, and you're showing us your gorilla arm. You go first.
So, like, from my perspective, which is just, the world's expert. No, I'm just saying, like, how there's no like, oh, 6 hours this and 3 hours that. There's no, I mean, you say your piece, Richard. I'd probably go for like maybe 4 hours of peak intensity, or 4 hours or less. And then I may have the lights on in total anywhere from maybe 8 to 10 to 12 hours of, ramp down. Like Richard's tank ramps down into the blue for a long time so he can enjoy it for a while. I don't think there's a magic number. I really don't.
Yeah. Pee on it, I think.
Just urine is
Pee
the
on
answer.
it. I guess
Urine
pee on it is the name of the episode.
Piss on it.
That's gonna make the people who have a problem with the word heck and hell
Yeah.
really tune in. I would approach this question by, again, like I often do, is going, what is the point of your tank?
Oh,
Right?
growth or viewing or.
Yeah, what are you doing? So, if, so let's take what we're trying to do with spawning coral and lighting corals, lighting for acropora spawning, right? We just mimic nature essentially when we're trying to do that. And so you can look at the sunrise and sunset of wherever you're trying to make your tank be like. And I go with there's roughly 12 hours of light, roughly. And I got 3 or 4 hours of ramp up and 3 or 4 hours of ramp down. And then I've got, about 4 hours of peak, and then the shoulders of the ramp up and ramp down coming up. That's what I do in my tanks. If I'm spawning, it's the same thing. It's 3 hours of ramp up, 3 hours, then it's 9 hours. If I'm 360 minutes is 6. So yeah, we're doing 12 hours in our reef tank, in our spawning systems. 3 hours of ramp up, 6 hours of peak, 3 hours ramp down. If you're spawning, you're mimicking nature as much as you can. And you're also changing intensity every week because intensity changes over time. And that nobody does besides us who are spawning corals, right? It's because you can't really build that into the controller yet. So I'm coming at, there's such a wide range of what corals will accept in our tanks.
That's what I'm saying.
That it's kind of like, do what you like. If you want the tanks to be brightly lit when you get home at night, fucking brightly light them at home at night. It's for you. And they'll do fine. So, the common stuff are the things that are recipes. So the AB plus is a recipe that people follow. So there's really, the common one is the one that everyone's using because it exists. So, I would do shoulders and a ramp up.
All right.
There's only 4, 5, 6 hours of super high intensity stuff on the reefs.
Yeah.
It's way more intense than what we're giving them. But so what? They're not out on the reef. So, there's even been people who have done experiments, and I haven't seen any follow-up on it, of having 2, 4, or 6 hour days with their lighting. Instead of one long day, they do 2 days, because then your growth cycles and your photosynthesis cycles, your saturation, you peak it twice, but you give them the time to calm down in between. And that looks like you might get more growth out of that. It's possible, but I don't know.
Yeah.
I haven't seen it. So Scott, here we are again, and this happens all the time. I was just talking to a consult today about this kind of stuff, about, it's science. We all want science, but the science don't exist. So it's as much of an art as a science. So, I'm not aware of anybody doing garlic, really making it garlic-like. People say AB plus is the best. Good for them. They like
The
the
best
AB
for
plus.
what? That's my question. The best for what? Who
A
knows?
bunch of people have great success with AB plus. Nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I
This is
I
this
would
is America. Do what you want.
I ramp it up 4 to 6 hours of intense, and then bring it back down. And your curls will adapt to whatever you do anyway. So whatever.
Wait, I just said this is America. Do what you want, and I realized we have international beefers. We even have a beefer that made a comment from Spain.
That's true.
Thank you, Spanish
Thank you,
beefers.
Spain. This is Spain. Do what you want.
Yeah, this is Spain. Do whatever you want.
This is North Korea. We do what we want.
I wonder if we do have if someone like floats a phone over on a balloon and then a North Korean, and the first thing they go to is Reef beef. And they're like, America's great.
That would be fantastic.
If Reef beef destroys communism.
On lighting, I will say, if you leave your tank on 24/7, bad things are going to happen. And if you leave your lights off for more than 3 to 5 days, bad things are going to happen. But
So do something in between that.
do something in between that. Oh, it's almost like generally along the equator, we got about half the day is day and half the day is night.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's almost like that.
Next question.
So but no, Scott, I wish there was more data on it. But just so far, there isn't really a lot of research into aquarium keeping of corals. It's just,
I mean, how would you do the experiment to like, all right, so you did 8 hours. Like what happens at 9 hours? What happens at 10 hours? And it all depends on.
You could totally do that, but why would anybody fund that?
Yeah.
Is the
There's
question.
so many questions where no one's going to fund it. And your one little experiment isn't going to tell us anything.
Yeah, you could totally do the experiment. There's ways to do that. But why? Because we're talking, I think that the differences we're talking are like 5% maybe in growth. I don't know, So, meh. Sorry, Scott. Please follow up in the comments or send us another Reef Beef about how we let you down by not giving you a better answer than just do whatever. Because
we still love you, Scott. Even though Richard was like, look, don't leave your lights off and don't turn them on all the time.
Corals are very plastic and adaptable. I wish there was more science on it, but we're not there yet. There's just no one's going to do it. Oh, this one's exciting. Another Scott C. I have 200 plus green Palithoa polyps covering the largest rock in my tank. I'm aware of the toxins and the hazards regarding handling these, but I was recently told that the Palithoas represent a risk to the other livestock in my tank and I should remove them. The tank is 2 months old, 235 gallons, it has a dozen fish and a few dozen coral frags. The Pallies came on some rock I acquired from a teardown and have multiplied quickly. The rock is a small portion of the overall structure and I plan to remove it and discard it when I have more interesting corals to replace it with. But now, the Pallies add some visual interest. I also think they provide some filtration value. Can you explain what risk the Palithoas present to other livestock, and would you advise pulling the rock now rather than waiting?
I don't love Palithoa. There's some pretty ones out there, but I don't love them because they take over real estate so much. And I am so afraid to fuck with them when they've grown all over the place, because I'm sure most of the beefers watching this, but that palitoxin is the most toxic substance known to man.
Palitoxin is bad. I pulled a link. I pulled a quote. So there's an article on the MASNA website. MASNA is moving, hopefully, and does. MASNA has some great content that's really useful and vetted, and hopefully they'll have more soon because I'm supposed to write some. But this was by Amy McKenna and Kevin Erickson. The Power of Palitoxin. We'll put a link below. It's on the MASNA site if you go to the education area and palitoxin. Pali's bad, right? From the article, palitoxin is the most highly toxic non-protein substance known to human. Its molecular weight is high at 3,300 Dalton, compared to similar toxins such as brachiotoxin, batrotoxin from the poison dart frog. paralytic shellfish poison, and tetrodotoxin, blue ring octopus, among other things, which are all less than 500 Daltons in molecular weight. 500 for tetrodotoxin, which will fuck you up dead, as opposed to 3,300 Dalton from the polytoxin, which is more. It's like 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30. Almost 7 times more powerful than fucking tetrodotoxin.
That's insane.
Oh my God. Okay. The LD50, the dose that kills 50% of a population, right? That's how we figure out how poisonous, how bad something is. The LD50 is 0.15, 0.3 UG administered by IV in mice. By comparison, the most venomous snake has an LD50 of 25. 25. As opposed to
25 milliliters?
0.15 UG per kg. Doesn't matter. Because that doesn't mean anything to anybody unless you're a scientist who cares about this kind of stuff. The relative toxicity is what you're looking at. The LD, the dose that kills 50% of brachio of a batrachotoxin.
Burt Bacharach toxin?
Is 25 UG per kg. But for polytoxin, it's 0.15 to 0.3. Let's just do it that way. 25 versus 0.3. Polytoxin is way fucking worse. That means the 10th of a weight of a grain of rice of polytoxin injected into your body will kill a 200-pound man or woman.
I weigh 200 pounds.
Or a 200-pound lump of flesh.
I'm a 200-pound lump of flesh.
While polytoxin seems to have no effect on worms, crustaceans, and fish who feed on the zoanthids, the toxin can bioaccumulate, causing poison in fish over time. It can kill stony coral, though not soft coral, so it's recommended not to combine them in the same tank. There's a bunch of... I didn't tell you where those quotes come from, but they're all vetted in this article. And it makes me think that when I was having the problem with my LPS corals, it's got to be 3 years ago now, when I was just losing them, the Palithoa grandis I had in the tank also did not look good. And if it was a salinity issue and the Palithoa were pissed off for a long time, they might have been pumping toxin out. And that could have had a problem. Anyway, I've removed the grandis from my tank. Here's my big thing on Pali. Get rid of them is the answer.
Do you think so? Like the Palithoa Foundation is going to come after you and sue you?
There's two sides. Because look, you could seriously die from a pump in your tank. Right? A pump goes bad. If a light falls into your tank and you haven't set it up right, you could easily be killed. Right?
Yeah.
You could easily be killed by Palithoa.
It's happened.
I don't know about deaths, but people have gotten seriously sick.
Yeah, that's true.
And so the question is, how much? It's just like It's just like having an arrow crab. How much do you love the arrow crab? You don't really love the arrow crab. Why the fuck are you getting an arrow crab? It's a stupid animal. It sits there and looks like a fucking stick.
It's sweet. It looks like a robot.
It's super cool, but you need to take care of them, and they'll eat your other shit. So what are you doing? There's plenty of animals I say don't add to your tank anymore. Any I can't talk tonight.
Obligate.
Any corallivore you don't want. We know that some of the filefish, are going to pick on your corals. It's just basically, there's a whole bunch of animals. So there's so many animals you can have in your tank. Why do you want fucking Palithoa?
Get rid of them.
I would get rid of them. I'm in the process of getting rid of them. I pulled the grandis out, and now every time I go in to juice up, we got to get Frank to sponsor us or something. I'm just loving the Aphaptasia now. The Aphaptasia, whenever I go in to my main tank to kill some Mahanos, I also kill off some of the Palithoas. I'm beating them back slowly.
Slowly. Yeah.
Because when I had the conversation with myself, it's like, why? Why do I want to risk something that if I grab it and then put my fucking fingers in my eye, it's going to cause me real problems? Yeah. Real problems. I'm going to the hospital kind of problems. I don't want that. I don't want my dog to eat it by accident.
Scott, get rid of them, but please be careful.
Be careful how you get rid of them.
We don't need like the first beefer to die from advice.
And Scott, the longer you keep them in your tank, the more they're going to spread around, and then they're going to be on more than just that one rock.
And that's a lot of LD50.
You know, I'm not going to tell you what to do, but get rid of them. Why? Just get something else. Get a zoanthid that.
To be honest with you, like if you're like, you know, I get the add visual interest, but like pulsing xenia will do that.
I get that argument, and that's how a lot, you know, they're easy to keep. So, you know, why not? But because they could kill you.
Yeah.
You know, read this article. Read this article. We'll put the link to it. It's great. It talks about wearing gloves and goggles and glasses, which some people do when they're doing with any corals at all, just in case. But Palithoa will fuck you up.
Actually, in one of the early reef beefs, I couldn't remember which one it was now, like 5 or something like that. I got a little bit sick a couple nights from messing with Palithoa.
Yeah.
I had like cold chills and some weird stuff that felt, you know, feverish and whatnot. And it only lasted one night. And it's the only thing I could think of.
And it does all kinds of shit, man. So think about this. If you get sick and if you get hospitalized from these Palithoa for whatever reason, how excited are you going to be about the visual interest they provided?
Yeah, that's true.
I think we beat that horse to fucking death.
Yeah.
We put that in a Cuisinart and blended that shit up.
Hey, beefers, thanks so much for watching all this stuff that we do. And please click like and subscribe, whether you're watching on YouTube, hit the bell, hit the like, make a comment, whatever, frog, whatever. You know, if you're listening to it in podcast format, give us a review. Reviews help because it helps, you know, that platform share with more people. And actually, we've been having a landslide of viewership through podcast generators.
Yeah, and we're almost at 1,000 subs. And when we did that, we wear capes.
Yeah.
But don't let that slow you down. At 2,000 subs, Ben is wearing spandex.
I still maintain that it's 1,500.
Okay. At 1,500 subs, Ben is wearing spandex.
I'm going to wear a spandex reef beef bodysuit.
Thank you guys for all your support. Thanks to saltwateraquarium.com and Biota, the Biota group.
Yep.
And yeah, that's all I know. So thank you, everyone. Have a wonderful, safe week. All right, so if you guys don't know, Ben and I kind of take turns being the showrunner for the show. So it's Ben's show. I'm just here. What's going on, Ben?
It's just started raining. It distracted me. It was hitting the roof, and I thought Santa and his reindeer was on the roof.
Yep, Santa often comes in January 8th.
Yeah,
we're recording this right now.
So
although we're not supposed to say that.
Gotta get them all.
Gotta get them all?
Gotta catch them all.
Catch them all.
Gotta catch a mole.
Your fucking backdrop is boring.
I know, but I shall make a promise.
Yeah.
By next recording, I will utilize the green screen.
Okay.
That's a
and
promise.
I'll make the banner behind me straight.
No, it's eccentric.
Your face is eccentric.
Absolutely. If you want to live.
If you want to live. Is that everything? That's
Get
everything.
in the chopper.
Let me find my beef. My beef brings all the boys to the yard. Damn right.
Damn right. It's better than yours.
Take your Texas racism somewhere else.
Oh, well, oh, shucks, partner.
Oh, shucks. Oh, shucks. You and your people don't belong here. Have some barbecue and leave.
Yeah. Take your bristle worms and urine.
Urine. 3 hours, right? What's 360 divided by 60?
Are you really gonna do that to me?
Yeah.
On air?
Yeah, and I'm not going to do it on the computer at the same time.
You know, I do have a PhD in arithmetic. Do, 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 do. Be safe. Don't be licking Palithoa.
And if you disagree with us or agree with us, let us know.
Yeah.
If you think Palithoa are good for COVID and people should eat that. Oh God, I shouldn't even say that.
There was a guy in the last episode on the YouTube comments that said, I disagree with everything you said on there, but you probably don't want to hear about it. And I was like, get to typing.
Right. We totally want to hear. We totally want to hear. Put it in the comments. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, guys.
I'll see you in Tahiti.